Welcome. I'm Julie Bacon, and you're listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast, a podcast for dog handlers who are on a mission to achieve big goals. Here I share lessons, insights, personal stories, and tools you can apply during your next show, trial, or test to help you strengthen your mental game and hopefully cue more consistently. Be sure to check out the show notes where you'll find details about the episodes, plus important links, including the link to the Dogged Planner and Workbook created just for handlers on a mission. So if you're ready to improve your competitive mindset, get out of your own way, and connect with your dog like never before, then it's time to get comfy, bring an open mind, and work your mindset. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. Okay, you've heard of champagne problems. Well, this week we've got pedestal problems. And I'm bringing this up because for whatever reason, it's been kind of a recurring theme with a number of my coaching clients. And so I was like, well, if more than one coaching client is having this problem, then it must be kind of out there right now. So pedestal problems, what are we talking about? So sometimes when we get into situations, we can do it with people, we put things on pedestals, all right? Meaning we elevate them, we make them special. So it could be that, this big event and you're like, well, of course it's a national or it's an open or it's an invitational. Of course it's special, or of course my specialty is special, or of course this, big event, my, whatever is special. But we can also do that with people. Like, oh, well, these other people, they're way better than I am. Like, I'm going to this event and, those people are going to be here. Those really good people, those world team people, those international players or what have you, they're going to be here. Or sometimes we just go to a local event, but maybe it's a judge that we really want to do well at, or maybe our breeder's going to be there or other people are going to be there. And all of a sudden we start to assign all of this extra meaning and all of this, pizzazz or just specialness to this event or to the run or to the people or just to whatever. And what happens is when we elevate something, we make it better than us, right? We make it really important and really like, wow, like this is amazing. And even as I say that, sort of the energy I get is like that of standing in front of something and looking up at it, right? Well, in that moment, when we elevate something else, we put something else on a pedestal, that means that by nature, we are lower than, right? Whether we intended that or not, we can make ourselves lower or not on even footing with the thing that we are about to interact with. Again, it could be people, could be an award that you really want, could be a trial, could be a national, an open, right? Could be any of these things. And when we make these things special or better than us, it definitely pushes us down and can really start to mess with things like our confidence, or really get us going around ring nerves, or really make us doubtful or feel like, or maybe our imposter syndrome trigger flares up. So it has all of these kind of other things that kind of roll out of it as a result. Okay. So when we think about things on a pedestal, yes, it's very easy, I guess, in this society and the way we talk about things, that we're always constantly comparing or elevating something. So like, oh, that's really cool. Or, even if it's a designer purse, right? We're elevating it so that like, oh, well, if someone is carrying that purse, that must mean something. And so with these, when we elevate these things to special status, we also start telling stories about them, whether consciously or unconsciously. Meaning the story we're telling is could be a very elaborate one, right? Like, oh, well, that award is so special. The people that have won that award in the past are people that I really looked up to. And if I, don't get it, then that means that I'm not as good of a handler. And if I do get it, that will mean this and that and the other. And at the end of the day, it's a ribbon, right? Or at the end of the day, it's a big event, but it's a medallion or it's a a fancier ribbon or something like that, right? So where we get into trouble is, yes, the elevating a thing isn't great, but in truth, national events are big deals, or opens are big deals, or invitationals are big deals. Where we get into trouble is when we make them a big deal and we keep piling on the stories. So we keep piling on the stories of how amazing that thing is, but then in turn, it turns on our doubts, or again, wrecks our confidence, or things like that. And then the story we tell on that side is, I'll never get it. I'm not good in pressure situations. I always choke in the finals. I'm not good enough to be in this crowd. What am I doing here? All of these things and all of these doubts. And that very quickly, as you can imagine, starts to erode our ability to perform in that environment. Okay. So it's kind of a simple thing. I know I've done it. I've talked about it before on this podcast, where I, elevated an event and was so excited about the event. I didn't even really think of myself as being nervous per se, but obviously I was on some level, because I gave myself a migraine right before I was supposed to walk in the ring. And I did walk in the ring, but one of my things with my migraines is I can't really see very well out of my right side, my aura, when I'm starting to get them. So that run went as you would expect it to go when you can't really see out of one whole side of your vision is gone. So use your imagination. You can fill in the details. But my point is sometimes we're not even aware that we have put the event on a pedestal, or that it's eating at, or that in so doing that it's eating at our feeling of preparedness, or feeling of confidence, or our, pushing on our imposter syndrome buckets, or what have you. So we want to be really mindful of what that looks like. And some of the language, if you're using some of the language, these could be clues. And by the way, not a full list, right? Only you will know what your full list is. But if you start thinking in the ways similar, oh, that's going to be really stiff competition, or yeah, I'm just really happy to be there. I don't really feel like I belong, or, oh, the people who are going to be there are really great. All of those little things have clues in there. If someone says that to me, right, if we're doing a coaching session, someone says that to me, it sounds like bells going off, because they're making the other better than them. Right? By saying oh, I don't really know if I can hold up, or I feel like everybody is going to be judging me, and what am I doing there, and what do I belong there? What I hear when I hear that, I'm saying on the other end of a coaching call, what I hear is that person elevating those people, or that situation, to be better than they are. And then by de facto, then they are reducing themselves. So I know that we've maybe got a confidence problem creeping in, or maybe we've got a, kind of maybe a judgment problem creeping in, right? You're judging them, and you're making up this whole story that they're judging you as well, because if that's how you think, then that must be how they think. Or maybe it's really stirring up all of these comparison, vibes again, right? I mean, it is so easy to fall into comparison. I feel like it's one of the easiest traps that is out there for us. And, I've done entire episodes on comparison before, but a couple of things of note for this topic is, again, I think that sometimes we are drawn to comparing ourselves because we are so desperately looking for a measurement of how we're doing, right? We want feedback. Yes, we go to class. Yes, we have trainers. Maybe even we have online classes. Maybe even we're sending in videos. But at the end of the day, a lot of our training might even happen in our living room. It might be happening in the backyard. And we just want to know well, how am I doing? How am I doing? Am I on the right path? Am I where I should be? And yes, maybe relative to other people, but sometimes we just want to know am I doing okay? How's it going? So sometimes we elevate other things, put other things on a pedestal, but in truth, what we're really looking for is comparison. Well, how am I doing? Do I belong up there with them? Am I worthy of, being at this trial even, or getting invited to this event? Like, how did I get here? I don't feel like I'm worthy of that. And again, it's that comparison. And on some levels, we're sort of looking for someone to say, like, walk by us and be like, hey, glad you're here. You totally belong here, or your dog's amazing, or whatever. And because we don't really get that very often, and if you do, fantastic. But I don't get that very often, right? And so because we don't get that feedback very often, we're constantly looking for it. So then we're comparing. So then we're looking outward. And when we're looking outward for that validation, then again, we set ourselves up. It's almost like setting ourselves up for the joke. We're setting ourselves up for more comparison, for more wondering if we're doing okay, for more insecurity, imposter syndrome, like getting to the line and like forgetting the course because it's really triggered your anxiety to be at a certain event. So that's what we have to really watch when we put something, again, a person, an event, an invitation, a something up on a pedestal, or raise it any higher than we are standing eye to eye with that thing, then we are engaging in separation. We are separating ourselves from that, right? Because we're making that better than. And then whenever something's better than, something has to be worse than, and that ends up being us. And so then we feel kind of crappy, and we get in our heads, and we have trouble digging out of it because we think, oh my God, I'm looking up at this thing. How am I ever going to dig myself just even back to ground level, much less back to that event level? Okay. All right. So quick break, and then we're going to talk about what do we do with it? How do we fix it? Hey everyone, I am so excited to share that we have our first sponsor on the podcast, St. Rocco. You might already know them for their amazing all-natural jerky-style treats, but did you know they also make entrees and food toppers with the same top-notch ingredients? It's true. I've got to be honest, I'm a huge fan of these treats. I use them all the time, whether I'm training, at trials, or even when it's just nail trimming time. My dogs love them, and it feels good to support a small business that genuinely cares about our dogs. And there's something special just for you. St. Rocco is giving Q listeners 20% off. Just use the code JB20 at checkout when you order from St. Rocco's Treats.shop. That's SAINTROCCOS Treats.shop, code JB20. I will also put a link in the show notes. Alrighty, so it would be easy for me to say, well, just don't put it on a pedestal, okay? But I know it's not that easy. I couldn't even finish the sentence without laughing, right? It's not that easy. There are things that we want and that are important to us, be they titles, awards, bigger titles, bigger awards, qualifying for big events, maybe even just going to a big event like a specialty or something like that is important to you. Maybe even the first, trial after a rehab. Okay. There are things that we want. And when we want those things, they're outcomes. And the more we want them, the more passionate we are, right? The more we put more effort behind it and more, desire around it and training and all blood, sweat, and tears and everything into it, toward it, the more important it gets. That's the good news. That's the bad news, right? Because we want that to be important. Sometimes we need a motivating event to really get us moving. There's nothing like entering a trial and then realizing, well, I guess I better train for it because I entered it, So those things can be very motivating. But the other problem with that is if we think that it is somehow above us or beyond us, or we're not worthy, or we're not deserving, or we're not there yet, or that's only something that happens to the cool kids, or somebody with more experience. I'm only on my novice A dog. Who am I to want that thing? When we do that, we separate ourselves to it to the point that there's a sliver of us that believes it's unattainable. Okay. And I don't know about you, but I don't want any of my outcome goals to be thinking they're unattainable. Okay. I am drawing those things in. I am, training and manifesting. I'm doing all the things I can do to draw those outcomes and those titles and awards and invitations and all those things in toward me. Okay. So when we think about things, then we think, well, how can something be that important and yet ordinary or normal? Or how can we, metaphorically stand eye to eye with something like that is a big deal? And maybe we've never gotten that thing before, right? Your first mock, your first, Och, or, all of these things. There's all these firsts. They're big deals, And so I think that there is a way to still hold those things to be important and things that you are gunning for without them and still be worthy of them. And I think that is the disconnect. If there is a goal that you have written down in your dogged planner, right, which the new 2025 comes out in like any day now, I'm very excited. But if there's a goal that you've written in your dogged planner or wherever you keep your goals, and you look at it and you're like, oh, I'll never get there. I am not worthy. Or I'm putting it out there, but I'll probably never get there. Then you are probably in this sort of pedestal mindset. And I don't want you to erase the goal. I don't want you to change your goal. I just want you to change your mindset about it. And I just want you to think about it in terms of like, well, it's like, if, for instance, let's use a mock for an example, right? A lot of people have gotten mocks. There are a lot of mock ribbons. No one's ever run out of mock ribbons to give. There'll be plenty more, right? There's more than enough. I am worthy. I have a great dog that is worthy of achieving that. I have a path to achieving it. I have a plan for, moving my skills up the ladder, constantly improving ourselves, building our consistency, building our confidence as a team. We're getting better as a team every day. That mock is attainable. Okay. And so when you do that, you start to, if you will, kind of even the playing field, because you take that thing off of the shelf and you set it on the table in front of you and you think, oh no, eye to eye, I'm getting this. I'm going for this. This is reasonable. And, even if I don't hit it, the things that I will accomplish on my way to getting it or trying to get it are going to be amazing. Like, this is attainable. I'm going to make a plan for it. I deserve to one of those big fancy ribbons just like everybody else. Here we go. Let's do this. And then further, you take it a step further and you think like, okay, now if I'm making a plan, what's my plan? Is it just go to more trials, or are there certain skills that I would like to add? Do I need to make like a skills list of things that I want? Like, is my mindset holding me back? Is, our ability to travel holding me back? Like, what do I need to do here to make this work out for me? And now you're in like a planning mode, because now you've sat that goal across from you and you've thought about like, no, I can do this. This is attainable. And even in the act of doing that, of putting together a plan of, again, metaphorically looking it in the eye and saying like, oh, you're mine, then you start to bring it down off that pedestal and you start to work toward it, like as a point forward on the horizon, drawing you to it, instead of this, museum quality piece of art that is up on a pedestal with glass around it and a bunch of do not touch signs. That's not the way we want to think about this. We want to think about everything as being within our grasp, or within our grasp given, some work and some time, right? Especially in the case of mocks and otches and rocks and things, all of those other rhyming titles that take a lot of time, right? Because there's many double Qs or many points or what have you involved. So those are marathons, right? And that you do the same thing with the big event, visualize that event sitting on the table and being like, you know what? Yeah, you're special, but I'm special because I get to go. We're equally special. Like, maybe they don't invite just anyone, but I'm not just anyone. I got to go. I qualified to go. I deserve to be there. I get to go. right? And what is my plan for going? What is my plan for going and having a good time and doing the best that I can? Like, what do I need in order to make that happen? And then you get to make a plan. Okay. So when we take things off of their pedestals and we set them on the table, we stare at them and we think about, okay, making a plan, they become more down to earth, more manageable. We feel like we're in more of a position of control instead of being kind of vulnerable to the whims of these gods that we have created, right? And we then can get realistic and pragmatic, maybe even, and figure out, how am I getting this? Like I made a decision and I'm making this with conviction. And this is now something I really want to go after. So what is my plan? Or in the case of a national event or an open or something like that, like I want to do well at it. What is my plan? And what does do well even mean? What does success look like to me? And so when we stop looking up at it and we look directly at it, or maybe even slightly down at it, even better, then we realize we are worthy. We do deserve to be there. We deserve to win the special award. We deserve to walk into that arena and with our best partner and slip into that flow state and just get after it and just have a beautiful run. Okay. So I want you, as your homework, I want you to think about how you make other things, again, could be people, could be events, could be this weekend's trial, could be your 20th double Q, like it could be a whole bunch of things. But how do you make those things special, aka better than you? And how are you putting other things up on this pedestal where you think you're not worthy somehow, or that you have to level up 6 levels overnight, just to be in the running for something like that? And just to build the awareness around where you're doing that is such a huge thing, because then the next thing you can ask yourself is like, well, is that true? Or sometimes for events, I'll say, well, everybody here is in the same boat. Like everybody here either got an invitation or just entered. Like everybody can enter this event. Like it's not special. You just had to pay your money and fill out the form, And so when we do that, we kind of want to take the wind out of it, if you will, and normalize it and normalize us being there and kind of put everybody else on that same playing field, so that we're all on an even playing field. And even if we're in novice, and yes, our dogs might actually get the zoomies, won't be the first dog to get the zoomies, and you deserve to be in the ring and give your dog that first good positive experience, just like everybody else who came before you, who brought their crazy novice dog into the ring to give them good experience and put good miles on them. Okay. So making sure that you are not elevating things to a point that you think that they are unattainable or so special that being there or achieving it or getting close to it breaks you out in hives or really triggers your imposter syndrome or your performance anxiety. Those are all the signals that you're putting things on pedestals, that you're making them so amazing and so important that you are demoting yourself in the process. So that is your homework, right? Look for places where we do that. I think we all do that. I think we all do that to some extent. I mean, we can do that standing in the line at the grocery store, looking at somebody else's outfit and fancy purse, and thinking they're better than because, they're carrying a purse that costs more than your whole outfit or something like that, right? We do it in all kinds of little ways is my point. Not so that you're suddenly fixating on purses in grocery stores, but, which I don't want you to do either. But my point is we do it a lot all the time, right? That would be an example of putting that other person on a pedestal just because she's got a nice purse. You don't know it's not fake. And you choose to spend your money on dogs. So you could have those purses too, if not for dog entries. So look for it. And as soon as you start to look for it, I guarantee you there'll be places where you'll realize that oh, that's silly, or that's what I've been doing, or no, I deserve to be here. And then again, once we build the awareness, then we can start to change our thoughts and our behaviors and then the results that we get, right? So let's start that chain with this. And yeah, if you want to share, let me know. I would love to know how you've been putting something on a pedestal, or this was an aha moment for you. Always share with me. Love to hear the stories. And in the meantime, no matter what you're doing this week with your dogs, I hope you have a fantastic time. Thanks so much for listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast with me, Julie Bacon. I am so grateful for your precious time. Check out my Dogged Planner, workbook, and journal available on Amazon. Just search for Dogged Planner. I also offer monthly membership that's perfect for ongoing support of your awesome goals. Check out theqcoach.com for details, or just stop by and check out all the ways you can work on your mindset. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at theqcoach and let me know how it's going. Finally, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps us podcasters tremendously. Plus, I know I get my best podcast recommendations from friends. Thanks, and have a great week with your dogs.